So today we're going to be starting on our semovente m40 75 from Tamiya. I like this little tank because it's something a little bit different, other than building, you know, your basic Tigers and Panthers and Shermans and so on. It's just something a little bit different. I've built this particular tank before, a different manufacturer though. It was semovente, I think it's pronounced. It went together okay, but I was happy with the tank in the end because, like I say, it was something a little bit different. This little Tamiya one, from what I've been told, will go together very well. So yeah, we'll start on. We'll just open the kit up, have a quick look inside. The instructions I've already been through. Very basic because there's not really a lot to this particular kit. You see there's only like 3 pages there, and on the back side you have your markings and decal placings and stuff like that. There's the upper part of the hull. I've been over it. Looks fairly crisp. A little bit of flash, but yeah, not too bad. I do notice though there's a couple of holes along here that look fairly large, and I'm pretty sure that's where the exhaust stacks will come out from the engine bay. Hopefully that's what they are, otherwise they're going to have to be filled. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're exhaust stack holes. The lower part of the hole, well, there's not much to look at there. It's fairly basic. All the parts, all the sprues seem to be very well moulded. I can't see too much flash. As usual, there's some seam lines that will have to be taken off on certain parts, like you can see on the jerry cans here, and that there's a seam line running around them, so they'll have to be cleaned up. There are some internals for this tank, not a great deal. It's only the forward part with the steering columns, the seats, and then the back of the steering bay. That's the wall that faces it, so you won't see anything in the engine bay, but up the front you'll be able to see into it, which is good because I want to have the hatches open because we've got some figures to sit on the tank. So I'm hoping to have a figure sitting on the edge of the open hatches at the top, maybe another one climbing up the side of the tank or something. I'll have all the hatches open so you can see the detail that's inside. This sprue here, or these 2 sprues here, that's all your running gear, all your wheels and so on. Again, they look to be fine. There's no flash, big heaps of flash hanging off them or anything like that. They look fairly crisp. Yeah, so the only part I do see on it, now I found this with the other kit that I built too, there's a V-nut one, on your springs here, right up the middle of the springs is a seam line, and back when I built that one I wasn't really that particular about my models. I was only just sort of starting back again after a long break from modelling, and I just sort of put it together and didn't worry about seam lines. But once it was painted, they really stood out, the seam lines up there. The same with exhaust. There's the seam line running right down the middle of the exhaust stacks here. So just be aware of the seam lines and clean them up, because it does stand out once the model's finished. So, and that's about all that's in there, except for our little plastic one-piece tracks. I mean, I'm not a fan of rubber tracks like one-piece tracks, but I'm sort of not a fan of paying like more for a set of tracks than for the entire kit either, like individual tracks. So we'll put these on. We'll see how we go. I might be able to thread a bit of wire through there so I can get it to bend, so we can get a sag in it or something like that. But we'll see how we go with that. So okay, and that's about it. So let's start building. So far the model's gone together fairly easy. We've got some of the internals inside the lower part of the hull there now, and they all fit neatly like normal Tamiya kits. They go in fairly well. But I've already found a few seam lines that definitely need cleaning up. Now this little part here, Not sure if you can see that in the camera there. I'll take a photo, close-up photo, so you can see it, but there's an ugly seam line running straight down the centre of that. And I just thought I'd quickly turn on the camera and show you how I clean seam lines up. Now, there's a few different ways and a few different tools. Always have a nice sharp hobby knife, and if you can, get yourself a set of needle files. These come in really handy. And if you buy them in a set, you get your flats, you get your semi-rounds, you get your rounds, so you can use them in a lot of different areas. But to clean up a seam line like this one, because it's in a small area, I just run my knife along and just scrape it back like so a few times until I can see it's nice and flat, the whole surface, and the seam line's gone. Spray the excess off, and then I'll look at it fairly closely, and if it needs to, I'll run a bit of sandpaper, maybe even the file over it, and then sandpaper as well. But that's cleaned up really nice, that piece there. There's a few little dags hanging on the end there where the knife has sort of come up against an edge. So you just pick them off with the tip of your knife. Now the seam doesn't run over here, it actually goes up the middle of the joint, so you can't see it on there, so we only need to do it in the centre of this piece. So there's one on this side, so again I'll just scrape it off with the knife, pick the dags out of the end of it, and that's about it. That seam's nice and clean. Now that's only one piece. I found seam lines on a few parts here, and obviously this kit being an older kit, we are going to find some big ugly seam lines here and there, so just be wary. Just every part you cut off, check around it for seam lines, because if you leave seam lines on, then you paint it. Once it's painted, they really stick out, and it does ruin the model. So yep, just be wary of that. Okay, so now we come to the dreaded making of the road wheels, putting them together. Anyone who builds a lot of armour kits knows that this is one of the tedious chores that go with making, like most armour kits, is running all the running gear. Normally you have two wheels put together, and you know, there's a lot of sanding and stuff like that if you want them to come out smooth. So I just thought I'd do a quick little tutorial on how I work with road wheels and how to get the seam lines to disappear and so on. So I'm just going to make up a couple of little idle wheels here first, and just got to make two sets, but I'll just make one, and we'll just run through how I clean them up and so on. So first off, we've got to cut them off the sprue. So we look for the parts we're after here. We're after A2s, A1s and A2s, which, okay, and A3s. There they are up there. Okay, A2 and A3. So now, as I clip these off, as I've given this tutorial in other videos, I don't put the back of the cutter, sprue cutter, right against the part and snip, because that can actually, especially if your cutters are getting a little bit blunt, will actually pull the plastic inwards and tear on the part and leave little marks on the part which need to be filled. So I hold it just a little bit back away from the part, so after it's been cut off, there will actually be a couple of little stubs on there that are left over from the sprue where I've cut it off. Now they're not very big because I hold it fairly close, but they're just a little tiny stub there. Now to clean them up, I normally just pick